Hello, welcome to Loremaster's Lair. I'm your Loremaster, with us right on the edge of the War of the Immortals. With Gorm now officially dead, and Adventure Path starting with next week, officially happening after the starting bell, the next year we'll be hearing a lot about war. So let's talk about a god of war. Not Gorm, but the only Apacolypse Rider to currently have a full profile, and the one on the cover of the War of the Immortals itself. We have Szuriel, the Horseman of War. Let's get started. As usual, let's start with where you can find information on a demigod yourself. As with all horsemen, Szuriel was given the bulk of her explanation in the Book of the Damned, Volume 3 for 1E, with it all being compiled in the Book of the Damned, with no volume anywhere. Of course, in 2E, it's Gods and Magic, which is the main source for a few months longer at least. The full write-up, however, comes from the 5th book of the Reign of Winter Adventure Path, titled Rasputin Must Die, a favorite of mine. For her realm, you'll find it in Planar Adventures. Finally, our side tangents will mostly come from Book of the Damned, but one comes from an even older book, The Guide to the Multiverse. No one remembers the faith or the world Szuriel originally came from, nor is it remembered what sin led to her excommunication. What is remembered is she amassed a legion of bloodthirsty soldiers under her white banner and took over her homeland, having every follower of her former faith crucified. She led endless war against every neighboring kingdom, until one of the countless assassins actually did their job. In Abaddon, it was no different. She waited and warred for eons as weak horsemen of war sat on their steeds. Then, shortly after, the then current one was severely weakened by a war with Lamentations and the Outer Rifts. She struck, eliminating her predecessor and taking the position of Horseman herself. Which, to give us some perspective, let's look at today's first side tangent, the part of the show where we look at those long gone. Over the years, many different individuals have held the 4 seats of the Horsemen. So let's look at the former Horsemen of War. The first one existent was Horseman, which we know little about outside that he ended up being killed by Sandra. After that, we do not know who held the seats. We just know the 2 who came before Szuriel. Washmolam, the Steel Reaver, took the form of a spider made of blades floating in the air, but is best known for being captured by Lamashtu and tortured to give away the secrets of birthing new forms of demons, with demons being the origin of demons. After that disgrace came Otaro, of the 10,000 Screams, a giant ebony-skinned man decked out in trophies of those he killed. While he did turn back the demonic invasion, Szuriel struck him down before he could fully enjoy his new position. Szuriel, as befitting her former faith, takes the appearance of a 20-foot-tall angel with flawless skin, golden hair, perfectly toned body, and ebony wings. She would seem the perfect beauty, befitting an angel. Though most angels do not constantly weep blood from their blackened eyes and have sharp teeth which rarely smile. There are some angels like that, but she also holds by her side the sword Lamentations of the Faithless, a blade once owned by a celestial who will never be heard from again. All in all, a form which sits in mockery of the angelic. Szuriel only cares about war. Former Horsemen of War cared about taking trophies and more subtle aspects of war, but they are not around anymore for a reason. Szuriel only focuses on bloodshed, She cares not about mortal worshippers as anything more than tools, in which to start wars, to toss aside as soon as they have no more use. She cares not for family, or loyalty, or talk, but only those who also devote themselves to endless war. As a daemon, followers are little more than temporary allies on the road to oblivion. She sees all those who would bow to her as puppets, their relationship pragmatic, and the ends being exploitation. Those who choose to follow her are usually those who have only known peace, some far-off community which have only known war. I apologize. Have only known war. In some far-off communities which have been at war for generations with no end in sight. One of those who are exceptional among the horsemen's followers are those who create great war machines and master the ways life can be taken on the battlefield. Remember, this was the god that was introduced alongside World War I weaponry as well as chlorine gas. That should tell you a lot. Speaking of followers, I think this is as good a time as any for a second side tangent. The Daemonic Harbingers almost all work under one or more of the Horsemen, both the greatest servants as well as those who are first in line to try to stab them in the back. And of the followers of Szuriel, the one who stands out the most is Zelishkar of the Bitter Flame, harbinger of arson, burning alive, and cremation, and the closest thing that Szuriel has to a herald position. Appearing as a tiger made out of living flames, all contained in black armor, the daemon is one with a successful history of leading demonic armies on Earth. Summoned by an Assyrian pharaoh to destroy the Shuri Empire, the Harbinger then turned and tried to destroy Osirian, only to be trapped in the labyrinth of Sekhmet-Shek. He stays trapped there to this day, still thirsty for more bloodshed. Also, side note, one of the two Daemonic Harbingers which were statted in 1E, so there's also that. For a being who does not care about her mortal worshippers, Szuriel's priests are those who are the most useful. Some think they can outsmart her or be granted special grace for their services when they go to Abaddon, but many realize their souls are only theirs until their last breath. Though there is no strict uniform for the faith, most of the priests end up wearing red clothes with black feathered cloaks. They paint their weapons black and mark their faces with tear streaks made out of blood. The fresher the better. The horsemen need no temples, but that does not stop mortals from building them. Some fortresses, some towers of bones, some thrones made out of swords, and some desecrated temples of goodly warrior gods. Shrines in turn can be a single sword or a banner stuck in the location of a genocide to remember the good old days. As always, it is not a matter of pomp and circumstance, just the inevitable bloodshed. Szuriel's realm is a cinder furnace. This is a dormant volcano surrounded by a realm of ash, exposed corpses, and fortresses. The location is the main furnace which all weapons of the horsemen's armies are forged. At one time, the volcano itself was the forge, but they long since have exhausted what nature could keep up with. So now they burn souls to use as their fire, with each blade made from their screams. It is also of note, where the land meets the river Styx is the land the horsemen gifted the gods Ugathoa and Xiphis as their divine realms, both still considered in the war's horsemen's border. Which brings us to our third side tangent, divs. Divs are the souls of corrupt genies who are devoted to the end of mortal works. They are fewer and weaker than daemons, and tend to back down in skirmishes with them. but the Horsemen tend to ignore them. However, what makes them of note is that they have their own portal to the universe, sitting in their fringe territories, made by the Pharaoh of Forgotten Plagues, which was the same one we talked about earlier with Zeliskar. They try to keep the portal a secret, but the thing is, Szuriel is the one who made the deal to have the portal created, and has always seen the Divs as a potential second army and a second front to open if she ever does invade Golarion. Now, it's time where we usually would talk about other information, but it's going to be short this week, because what use does a daemon have for holidays? What use did he have for holy texts? Sure, mortals try to create such things, but most end up as ashes in the blink of an eye, not even lasting a few generations for most, and none becoming widespread throughout the entire faith. So, finishing off with allies, starting with planar allies, Zeliskar is mentioned above as side tangent, with him being the #1 harbinger of Szuriel and therefore the closest thing she has to a herald. Gothis Rea is a Sesto daemon ranger who tried to become a living mummy to serve his lord even in death. He was convinced by daemons to hang himself instead. Now he extols to mortal officers the glory of suicide missions. Valak, the Itching Fingers, is an Undafon wizard who serves as Szuriel's archivist. He appears to mortals to give them the finest war machines in Abaddon. And now for the gods. The 4 horsemen share alliances with each other, but calling them friends completely misses the reality of daemons. She and Loremaster sit in stalemate at the place where Abaddon meets the outer rifts. And Asmodeus, on the other end, well, disapproves strongly at the destruction of souls instead of putting them to eternal work. She, along with the other horsemen, are aligned with Ugathor and Xiphus to some unknown end. And of course, the most important relationship Szuriel has is that with her former rival, Gorm. Let's end off with one final side tangent, and an interesting one. A dead ephemeral lord, Malak Taus. Little is known about them, except he is gone. He had a hand in the martial arts known as Melkartha, and he has an empty palace on the 6th tier of heaven. But outside of that, little is known. That said, the sword held by all Horsemen of War since time immemorable, the Lamentations of the Faithless, is said to have once been his before its corruption, giving bleak prognosis to his chances of being alive. However, some still hold hope and say he might have been simply captured by a mortal spellcaster, and he still might return one day. And that is the end of today's video. A small detour from our current examinations of the gods, but again, she is on the cover of War of the Immortals. I kind of had to, either this month or next month, and next month has already been taken for the god slot. But with that, next week we are taking a look away from Golarion, though the look is even farther than usual. I'll see y'all then.